The Prime Minister has inched closer to committing Australia to an emissions target of net zero by 2050, admitting the nation's energy mix must change over the next 3 decades to get there. Speaking last night to a Business Council of Australia dinner, Scott Morrison also took a swing at inner city residents campaigning for climate action, saying the target won't be reached in wine bars and at dinner parties.
The speech comes ahead of the PM joining a virtual climate summit later this week, where US President Joe Biden is expected to pressure leaders to make concrete commitments to cutting emissions. Let's get more from our reporter in Canberra, Matt Doran. Good morning to you, Matt. What's interesting about the Prime Minister's language here?
Lisa, good morning. The Prime Minister's trying to walk a fine line between showing he has some green credentials while also not alienating the conservative, coal-loving rump on his own backbench. He's described the approach to getting to net zero emissions by 2050 as something that can only be achieved by working with industries, and he's cited the work that big companies such as the mining giant BHP and electricity company AGL have been doing to cut their own carbon emissions, and he's made very pointed references to some of the industry-heavy parts of Australia that would be affected by any change in how those industries are working and the push into new technologies. Areas like the Pilbara in WA, the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, Gladstone in Queensland and Whyalla in South Australia's Upper Spencer region. It is a very difficult and tricky task for the Prime Minister to achieve both of these things, keeping inner city voters on side who may be concerned that the coalition isn't doing enough on climate change, while also keeping regional voters on side and their MPs and senators in Parliament. National Senator Matt Canavan has already said that he would vote against any attempt to legislate a net zero carbon emissions target. So this is what the Prime Minister is trying to do there. How effectively he's doing it remains to be seen. But in making this speech last night, he appeared to mock some of those inner city voters at one stage, which is the sort of language that will keep those more conservative elements of his party on side.
We're not going to achieve net zero in the cafes, dinner parties and wine bars of our inner cities. It will not be achieved by taxing our industries that provide livelihoods for millions of Australians off the planet, as our political opponents sought to do when they got the chance. It will be achieved by the pioneering entrepreneurialism and innovation of Australia's industrial workhorses, farmers and scientists.
Matthew, the opposition leader is making his own pitch for a greener Australia. How's he trying to frame the debate?
Well, Anthony Albanese will make his own speech today, talking about the jobs that could come from green industries, saying that green policies have long been derided in Australia, and rather than killing jobs, if there is to be a shift into those greener industries, it will actually create more jobs in areas such as battery manufacturing, renewable energy manufacturing, things like the turbines and the blades that go on wind turbines and the like across the country. It's a similar message that what we hear from the US President Joe Biden, who said that his country needed to be much more ambitious in its approach to tackling climate change. And of course, the US President is hosting a leaders summit later this week, which Scott Morrison has been invited to, calling on some of the nation's largest economies to do more to cut carbon emissions. Lisa?
Matthew Doran, thank you.